Welcome to An Engineer's Take. In this video, we will explore the formation and expansion of the USSR, NATO, and the Warsaw Pact, focusing on the key years when significant changes occurred. Through a series of maps, we'll visualize how these organizations evolved and discuss the geopolitical shifts that accompanied their transformations. In 1922, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR, was established, uniting Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and the Transcaucasian Federation. This marked the consolidation of Soviet power following the Russian Revolution. Between 1924 and 1940, the USSR expanded to include several new republics. In 1924, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan were established. In 1929, Tajikistan was formed. In 1936, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan were created. Also in 1936, the Transcaucasian Federation was dissolved into Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. In 1940, the USSR annexed the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Moldavia was also established in 1940 by the USSR. At this point, Western countries saw the USSR as a threat and decided to do something about it. In 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, was established by 12 countries. This military alliance aimed to provide collective defense against potential aggression during the early stages of the Cold War. In addition to the United States and Canada, NATO was made up of Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Iceland, Belgium, Luxembourg, France, Italy, and Portugal. NATO saw its first expansion in 1952 with Greece and Turkey joining the alliance, extending NATO's reach into southeastern Europe and the eastern Mediterranean. In 1955, West Germany became a NATO member, prompting the Soviet Union to establish the Warsaw Pact. This alliance included the USSR and its Eastern European satellite states, serving as a counterbalance to NATO. These countries included Poland, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and Albania. In 1968, Warsaw Pact forces invaded Czechoslovakia to crush liberalizing reforms. Albania condemned the invasion as imperialist aggression and completely severed ties with the Soviet bloc, choosing instead to align itself with Maoist China. Albania formally withdrew from the Warsaw Pact in protest to the invasion in Czechoslovakia. Though it had distanced itself from the alliance since 1961, the Soviet-led suppression of the Prague Spring was the final break. In 1982, Spain joined NATO, further expanding the alliance's presence in Western Europe. In 1990, East and West Germany reunified, and the newly united Germany remained in NATO, extending the alliance's presence into former Eastern Bloc territory. That same year, Estonia and Lithuania declared their independence from the Soviet Union, further weakening Soviet control in the region. Amid these shifts, U.S. Secretary of State James Baker reportedly assured Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev that NATO would move not 1 inch eastward. Although never formalized, the statement has since become a focal point in Russia's claim that NATO expansion violated post-Cold War understandings. In 1991, the USSR dissolved into 15 independent countries, leading to the disbandment of the Warsaw Pact. This marked the end of the Cold War era. However, it did not mark the end of NATO expansion. In 1999, NATO expanded eastward for the first time since the Cold War, welcoming Poland, the Czech Republic, and Hungary, former Warsaw Pact members. In 2004, expansion saw 7 countries join NATO, marking a significant shift as former Soviet republics become a part of the alliance. These countries included Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Romania, and Bulgaria. NATO continued to grow, with Albania and Croatia joining in 2009, Montenegro in 2017, and North Macedonia in 2020, further extending the alliance's influence into the Balkans. In response to evolving security concerns, Finland joined NATO in 2023, followed by Sweden in 2024, reflecting the alliance's ongoing adaptation to the current geopolitical landscape. Over the last century, the geopolitical map of Europe has changed dramatically. The formation and eventual collapse of the USSR, the rise and fall of the Warsaw Pact, and the steady expansion of NATO have reshaped the balance of power across the continent. In 1990, during negotiations over German reunification, U.S. Secretary of State James Baker reportedly told Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev that NATO would move not 1 inch eastward. While this statement was never formalized in any treaty, it has taken on symbolic weight, particularly for Russia, which views NATO's subsequent expansion into Eastern Europe and former Soviet sphere as a violation of the spirit, if not the letter, of that understanding. Since then, NATO has added more than a dozen new members, many of them former Warsaw Pact countries or Soviet republics. From the Russian perspective, this expansion has brought a historically adversarial military alliance even closer to its borders. Whether one sees NATO as a defensive alliance or a strategic power bloc, its growth has undeniably altered the security dynamics in Europe. Today, Russia's leaders point to NATO expansion as the key justification for their foreign policy decisions, including military interventions. While these actions are widely condemned, they are often framed domestically as defensive moves against perceived encirclement. Understanding this history does not justify aggression, but it does help explain the fears and motivations that drive modern geopolitical tensions. In order to build lasting peace and stability, we must reckon with how past decisions, formal or informal, continue to shape the present. Thank you for watching An Engineer's Take. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. In the next 2 videos, we'll dive deeper, first into the economic strength of NATO and the former Warsaw Pact nations, and then into a comparative look at their military capabilities over time. You won't want to miss it.